Welcome to the Dev Difference is How I Got This Job podcast. If you are new, my name is Jovanay Carter, and I am one of the co-founders and CEO of the Dev Difference, which is an interview assessment and mock interview tool for helping companies find amazing talent and helping to prepare candidates to shine in interviews. You all might know this, but myself and the two other co-founders of the Dev Difference all met at Dartmouth College over 10 years ago. We're always looking for ways to stay connected and active alumni. And I'm so excited to introduce today's guest because she is currently at Dartmouth College and is an administrator and leader of one of their excellent programs to help people get career access to STEM pathways. She is an author, an educator, a TEDx speaker, and the executive director of Dartmouth Next. Welcome, Dr. Ansley Booker.
Welcome. Hello, everyone. Proud to be here.
Dr. Booker is such a special guest because she spent her entire career building pathways for underrepresented talent in STEM, challenging institutions to think differently about access, about excellence, about equity, and such a huge role model for the work that we do and the work that we care a lot about at the Dev Difference. So I'm excited to have her on the show. Just a little bit more about Dr. Booker. Before her role at Dartmouth, she was the director of diversity and inclusion at Mercer University in Macon, Georgia. And that was an office that she helped to launch. So she's a trailbreaker, a difference maker, and our soror of the illustrious Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome, Dr. Booker. So today I'm excited because we get to take a look at your experiences and perspectives from an academic lens. A lot of the conversations that we have are usually with technical leaders and leaders of companies. And so it's exciting to be able to talk to someone on the academic front that's seeing some of the things that students are doing to prepare for this job landscape and how it's changing in the face of AI, especially for STEM roles.
I'm super excited to be here and share as much words of wisdom or words of encouragement that I have for your audience tonight.
I want to talk a little bit about your background. You have this amazing background and amazing story. Can you start by telling us a bit about where you grew up? What was the community like? And who were the people influencing your curiosity and drive today?
This is such a great question. I am a native of Edenton, Georgia, or Putnam County. Most people may be familiar with Putnam County because the author Alice Walker originally is an Etonian, as we would say. Look, I'm not a megastar like Alice Walker, but my curiosity really began with books. So I use that as a segue there. My mother got us a library card every summer. So we had summer enrichment, and she was a second grade teacher. My father also was in the military, but he also was an outdoorsman. So he was really engaged in like hunting and fishing. And so that's where my love of pets and curiosity and exploring nature really stemmed from. So putting my two opportunities together with my parents, I think they really allowed me to be myself. Like when they say kids don't go outside anymore, that was not the case growing up in Edenton, Georgia. You were definitely outside. You were definitely engaging with nature, really engaging with my own individual science fair projects. I remember asking my mom for a red microscope. Like, who does that when they get the Christmas catalog? You want a rock tumbling machine. I was growing experiments in different crystals in my room. I had animals and birds of all types. My mother was definitely sometimes afraid to go in my room. It was kind of Bill Nye the Science Guy type of, kind of Dexter's Laboratory.
Was it pets you had or?
I had a lot of pets, ones that I had created and ones that I had captured outside, like beetles, insects, butterflies, different things I want to look at and engage with, just keep, because I was just so fascinated by my nature and different plants. And so my mother, long as it was in bounds, I wasn't being cruel to anything, she allowed me to have that space and to really navigate those opportunities there. Because she's a teacher. And so she was really nurturing that curiosity. She got me books on Black inventors, Black mathematicians, and she really wanted to nurture what was inside. I don't know if she knew exactly what that would turn into, but she knew that it was something that I was really fascinated by. I will say that I think growing up in rural Georgia, we didn't have a lot of access programming for students, especially young Black girls in STEM. And so I found really that a safe space in 4-H, Beta Club, things of that nature, math team, quiz bowl team. We did a lot of those opportunities there, not only to go and explore different colleges and universities, but also a way to engage with other like-minded young scholars, I think.
Question on that. So you were in all these like mathlete sort of clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Who was in environment with you?
I will call her name. Her name was Miss Mary Sue McMichael. She actually found us. She's like our sixth grade math teacher. And so she literally found us, and it was like five other Black girls, so five including myself. So four other Black girls. And there were two other students as well, two other white male students. Then she put us together. So we weren't friends. We didn't know each other. We were on two different academic pathway tracks at our middle school. But she noticed our test scores. She noticed that we were performing very well. Most of us were in like Beta Club or some other student organization. And she reached out and said, hey, would you all like to be a part of like the math league, and would you all like to be a part of the quiz bowl team? And so we were like, why not? What else would we do on a Saturday? In sixth grade, I wasn't doing sports. So that was an opportunity, to get out and explore. And so we did it. We were state champions one year, regional champions. And so it was quite interesting. And those other four young ladies, we stayed friends, and we're still friends to this day, all throughout high school and elementary school. And at one point, she had dubbed us like the Fab Five or something. So it was quite funny, like putting all of us in polos and khakis and taking us all around Georgia doing like math and quiz bowl
Right.
competitions.
And Quiz Bowl, just so people know what that is. Can
Oh,
you explain?
yeah. So it's kind of like Jeopardy, but for middle and high school students. So there's usually like a tournament. Sometimes people now have robotics leagues, STEM leagues, but these are usually STEM-based questions, math, science, biology, whatever they may be questions. And you are in teams or pairs, and you have buzzers. And so what you're doing is your team is competing to see who can score the highest, basically the most questions correct. And they're academic-based questions. If we were in sixth grade, they usually were like 12th grade or 11th grade questions. So you
Okay.
have to have some even advanced knowledge or critical thinking skills, because most oftentimes the questions that you had were way above your grade level that you were participating in.
Great to know. I wish I would have known that before. I would have prepped some Quiz Bowl questions to give you.
Listen, and the funny fact is my mom, that was one of our Friday night activities. So that was like growing up, that was also one of our scheduled programs. Like TGIF was like Thank God It's Friday kind of series coming ABC. So we watched like Family Matters, but we also watched Jeopardy. We also watched Family Feud. So we were kind of competitive in that way. So it just gave me extra practice for Saturday for our competition.
That's such a sweet, tradition to have at home.
Mm-hmm.
You say your dad
Hmm.
was in the military
Yes.
and he was really into outdoorsiness and
Hmm.
nature. But does any of his military, I guess, influences come into the way that you work and your work ethic or anything like that?
Yes, it tickles me a little bit because as you get older, you think about like, oh my gosh, I'm turning into my parents. I will say that my father, his discipline, I think his persistence, his grit, tenacity, I think those are things I had inherited from him. I think also just the appearance too. Shirt had to always be tucked in, things had to always be pressed. I think that was a rollover from the military. Getting up 6 a.m. and getting outdoors was definitely, I think, a little bit of that rollover from the military. So he didn't have a career in the military, but I do think a lot of those characteristics, those leadership skills, really played a role in how he engaged with us and how he taught us to present ourselves and our academic backgrounds.
That's right. Oh, that's so beautiful. So tell me more about, like you had this amazing scholarship, McNair
Hmm.
Scholar. Tell
Okay.
us a little bit about what that is. I'm curious about your experience being first gen with that sort of access. Like you took all these geniuses that you had and all these
Hmm.
curiosities, and they turned into like products as you went off to college. Then you suddenly had scholarships and you were experiencing something amazing, and then you sort of kept going with PhD route and things like that. What was it like being in that space and getting that sort of level of scholarship?
Ronald E. McNair. He was one of those astronauts that broke the color barrier, right? So one of the first astronauts of color here in the US. And so what happened as a result of his tenacity, he was very persistent and he really inspired so many with his academic journey, his courage. They named the program the Ronald E. McNair program after him, which is a federal TRIO program. And so those are funded by the US Department of Education. And with that, the goal of those particular programs were to have students that were low income, they may be first generation, they may be underrepresented in their fields, provide them with access and opportunities and resources to pursue PhDs. And most oftentimes those PhDs were in a STEM discipline. So for me, I was actually able to be in the Ronald E. McNair program because I was underrepresented in my field. I identify as a Black woman. And so at that time, and even still, there's a dearth of Black women in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. And I was able to be recruited to be in that program when I was a senior at Georgia Southern University. And that program was really, really advantageous to my career. It helped me to do GRE prep. We did research over the summer with faculty members at Georgia Southern. We went off to the National McNair Conference and presented our research. We did grad school tours that opened up the opportunity to explore a plethora of graduate schools across the U.S. That I probably would not have had access to otherwise. And so I think it was a terrific program. It also helped me to build my networking skill and this lifelong addiction to learning and being able to serve and help others. And even after graduating, I became the director of the Educational Opportunity Center once I was at Mercer University. And then I also was a professor of science when I was part of the Upward Bound program. So I really rose through the ranks in EOC and rose through the ranks at Upward Bound. These are all programs that are like continuing ed programs that are connected to those federal TRIO ecosystem, those umbrella programs. So you have the Ronald E. McNair program, EOC, you have Upward Bound, Student Support Services, Upward Bound Veteran Math Science programs. And so there's several programs that came out of that Higher Education Act of 1965. And so many of the institutions I worked at had these programs. And so I was able to pay it forward by not only being a mentor in those programs or being a professor in those programs, but really providing access to higher education to thousands of people because I worked in that particular field for almost 14 years, off and on in different capacities. And so that really shaped not only my higher education trajectory, but I will say several other thousands in Middle Georgia because our program served about 1,900 people annually in 11 different counties. We had a very large team, a really multi-million-dollar grant. And it was really basic, like you're saying, to provide access to higher education. So we did SAT boot camp, ACT boot camp, and FAFSA prep. We were doing application prep for students. We were going into the high schools. We were going into the community-based resource centers. We were helping people that had been displaced or needed a new job to look for jobs and job opportunities. So there was a lot of different professional development opportunities and work opportunities that we provided individuals to really help them to level up or really take advantage of their skill sets and really access higher education.
Wow. Yeah. And then last question on background. You started in a really heavy math area and you did a master's in pharmacy. What made
Uh-huh.
you choose to switch into doing a PhD in education?
So serendipitous how I got here. I think I leverage all of my skills and all of the things that I've just, previously told you about. And so my goal always was to serve others, right? To be a transformational leader. But I could not let the STEM passion go away. Like I knew that was something that was really embedded in my heart. And I knew that was something that was aligned with my purpose and what I was supposed to do with my life. And so one of the things that happened when I graduated in 2008, I graduated during a recession. It was like, what do you do with a biology degree? Like, do you go to graduate school? Do you start teaching? Having not a lot of foresight as to what I wanted to do at that particular time. And so what I did was I would start working with TRIO programs because I knew about those programs. I'd been in those programs. There was an opening there. But all at the same time, I was still working on my master's degree in pharmacy, right? And so the goal was to go and get a PhD in pharmacoeconomics. And, with pharmacoeconomics, you look at how the cost of medication and pharmaceutical drugs and their therapeutics are delivered and the cost to the consumer, right? And you try to help lobby and make assessments as to the consumer base and who can afford what medications and what biologics and vaccines, et cetera, right? So that was my thing because that was going to be the key to me helping others and serving the community. And serendipitous, I think divine intervention, shall we call it, all of my PhD applications got lost in the mail. And so, yes, it's a very much longer story than what I can tell today. They got lost in the mail. And so through mentorship and through guidance with some of my mentors at work and in my life at that particular time, they like, hey, Ansley, I think you should still go the PhD route. There's a program at Mercer, at Tift College of Education. Your mother was an educator, your aunt was an educator. What you want to do, there is a lane for that. And so how about you, interview, you submit your materials and see what happens. And so I did. I got in and the rest is history. And then once I graduated, I leveraged that into leading diversity and inclusion because a lot of what we were doing with TRIO is really gaining access, looking
Mhm.
at equity-based systems. And so making sure people feel like a sense of belonging, feel a sense of value there. And so all these these things really kind of laid that pathway. You start to see the walkway starting to form as you walk it. And then once I got into my PhD program, again, couldn't leave STEM alone. The movie, I think in 2017, while I was in my dissertation, pathway came out, Hidden Figures, about the women that were mathematicians at NASA, the first Black women that were mathematicians, and how they helped calculate the trajectories to go to the moon. Of course, what does that do? Fascinate me. It inspires, me to talk about hidden figures or women that were like these invisible scholars that were not so present at universities, and being really supported through their academic journeys and helping me to try to ascertain like what were barriers, facilitators that help you to get your degree in computer science, physical science, and then engineering, because at that particular time, those students had the least amount of women of color, underrepresented populations. And so then that turned into like, well, what are you going to do with this knowledge? And so the goal was to help institutions to better understand those students and their backgrounds, but then also put into play resources, opportunities, and then really facilitators to help them to not only matriculate the graduation, but then also be successful in their careers afterwards. Because a big part of my dissertation was like, well, what does this look like once you graduate and you get the PhD? Are you going into the academy, or are you going to the corporate space, or are you leaving STEM altogether? And so it was with my dissertation research, there's a mixed bag of those things that I saw. And I had people of various age ranges too. So people that would have grew up through segregation all the way to present day, currently working on their materials. And so we learned a lot, and I was able to leverage that information into a TED Talk, but then also for the bigger picture, use it in what I'm doing on my day to day while working with students, like creating that sense of belonging, creating that sense of access, looking for resources, looking for career development opportunities, looking for ways of mentorship, because those pieces were really big when it helped to make sure that students were going to be successful. And it didn't matter the university for the most part. It really mattered about the environment, making
Yeah.
sure they had holistic opportunities and those wraparound services to help make sure that their journey was successful.
Yeah. Wow. I see common threads
Hmm.
between always caring about access, caring about people having the ability and opportunity to pursue the things that they want to do. And then also like just really loving STEM and not just doing it, but the history of it, who's involved,
Yeah.
the conversations, how it's in film, just being a real student of that area. I think that's what I'm hearing in your story.
Yes. Thank you so much.
I want to ask a few more questions around building up STEM innovators in like the current role and the roles that you're
Hmm.
doing. And you've hit on this a little bit, but Dartmouth is such a special place for me because I mean, it's where I sort of found myself in many ways because it was my undergrad. But I think it's specifically unique because of the environment of creating opportunity for
Hmm.
people to explore without limits. I know so many other schools, you have to automatically enroll in one sort of college and then you can't take classes in another program. I'm curious what attracted you to work at Dartmouth. Was it something about the culture or the academics? Like, what was it that you were like, I want to plant my roots here for a minute?
And I think you're exactly right, Jovanay, when you say that thread that's being interwoven throughout my story now. I will say that thread was more invisible years prior because I didn't see it knitting itself, right? Or making this beautiful tapestry that I call now my academic and professional journey, and just seeing it become full circle. And I think this job really helped me to complete that circle, if that makes sense, because I think as I was a young scholar being curious and knowing what I was passionate about and trying to turn that passion into purpose and to profit, really, because now you're trying to use these opportunities as a career. Like, what does that look like? But I think what made Dartmouth so unique and so special is they had created this pathway. So literally, this job right now is chapter 5 of my dissertation. Many
Mhm.
schools did not have a particular position like this where they had an office, whether it was in the provost space or the president space or in one of the academic colleges where they were using an individual or a team of individuals to really facilitate the STEM or STREAM ecosystem. A lot of times you see these particular opportunities and resources as individual silos in different colleges or even in different schools, but as a person that will bring it together as an umbrella type of initiative and being able to streamline some of these processes. So I was like, okay, this is it. This is chapter from my dissertation. I was 2, 3 years ago writing this job, and I didn't even know this was a job description that I was writing because I knew based upon the research and what people were telling me, these people's phenomenologies, people's lived experience. It's like, hey, if they're saying they need someone to pull together a database of internships, if they say they need someone to curate grant opportunities so they can actually fund their research and go to conferences and do presentations, if they need an office or a person that's going to help them prepare conference presentations, their 30-second pitch, be able to help them to go over their poster presentations, be able to help them curate their PhD defense. And I was like, okay, well, I know when I was at the university level, I got this from this office, and this office. And I literally had go across multiple campuses or go across multiple departments or see multiple people. Oftentimes, that's asking a lot from a graduate student. That's asking a lot from an undergraduate student because, sometimes you don't have the time, you have the energy, you don't have the finances, right? It could be a matter of that you have to go from one campus to another campus and they could be across state lines. You know what I mean? And so I was like, okay, this is the opportunity that really brings all these resources and opportunities together to make sure that everyone reaches their fullest academic potential, mentally, emotionally, being able to see themselves represented in the faculty if you want to go into the academy. And so I don't take this lightly because I do think this particular program is very unique in the fact that a lot of students, which I also found was one of the facilitators in my research for academic success, was not only STEM curiosity, but being able to engage in research at a very young age. So I will say that at Dartmouth, and because you were here, you walked the path already, it's very unique in that a lot of students, if not the majority of our students, are engaging in research at least by their second year. I've seen some very, very talented high school students even reaching out now, wanting to be in labs over the summer, coming into their first year. So I think there is so much opportunity and access for knowledge, and you're working with world-class professors that, are leaders in their thought, leaders in their fields. You have won Nobel Peace Prizes. So many, have done startups, multi-million, billion-dollar startups
Yeah.
here. So you're getting this leg up already on so many individuals is going to help with your academic success and your career journey. Right? You're
Yeah.
learning how to network. You're learning how to present your research. I just had a student tell me the other day that she is a sophomore, but she's already going to be an author on a research paper. I don't think I got my first opportunity to be an author until I was in grad school, right? So just think these students are 4 and 5, 6 years ahead of the competition. And not that it's a race, but if you think about if you're wanting students to be successful, these are the things that when they apply to graduate school or they're applying for a particular job, they're going to ask you, what is your research experience? Are you able to perform these particular laboratory skills? Are you able to problem solve, use critical thinking?
Yeah.
How can you work in a diverse team? And so these are some of the skills that I think a lot of students are afforded, and they're afforded at a very early age. But
Mhm.
also, how can I make sure that that information is equitably disseminated across the student group?
Yeah. I'm curious though, what if a school doesn't have a Dr. Ansley Booker? Like, what if they don't have someone who's doing all that research and pulling things together for them? How can the students take advantage of opportunities or sort of craft that experience for themselves when their school may not have the opportunity to help them with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it is very simple in that you still have to go to the career center. You have to still seek mentorship with faculty members because faculty members will be able to help leverage those opportunities, get you in particular labs. They'll be able to help steward and guide your research. So I think that happens at any school, right? I do think just seeking those opportunities, it may be that you're having to do a lot more of the legwork on the front end because there's not a centralized office or a centralized space that is doing it.
Yeah.
But all these universities have some degree of what's happening here. It just may look different and it just may be packaged different. Because even in my institutions that I came from, going to a particular professor's office that was good with helping undergraduates or graduates find internships, everyone knew that professor for that particular opportunity. And so you would just make an appointment and you would share your background and expertise, and then they would help you. There was other opportunities. There were student organizations that would leverage some of these opportunities I'm talking about. So it's just a matter of doing that lead work or that footwork. And a lot of institutions are or do have an office or department or team of people that are
Mhm.
doing this type of work. It just may not be called XYZ, but those opportunities are there.
Well, I definitely understand the experience of being a student, looking everywhere you
Hmm.
can, clawing your way to try to find opportunities, not just for research, but for jobs, which actually makes me want to talk a little bit more about the job landscape.
Okay.
which is shifting so much right now. Like you have AI, you have recessions, you have research grant cuts. From your perspective, are you seeing any effects in early career opportunities in that workforce for people who are coming out of academia?
Yeah, I think right now you just see a shift in people learning how to pivot and work collaboratively. I think you are really seeing a lot of individuals learning how to find alternative funding sources. So they're looking for a lot more grants and a lot more opportunities to share their research and advocate for their research. You do see a call for a lot more scientific based research when trying to problem solve, really share and disseminate information here. And I think that during recessions, oftentimes what you see from a labor standpoint is that a lot of people return to college. So they either return to college to get some type of continuing education, another certificate, or maybe even another career field. Or maybe their career field is changing or they lost their job. And so I think universities and colleges have the unique opportunity at this point to be that conduit of academic success. Oh, we have these continuing ed programs that are nights and weekends. We have these particular programs that may help you to hone your skills, or maybe you're thinking about pivoting in a different direction. And so even myself, I graduated during a recession. And so what did I do? I went back to graduate school. The MOOCs, the online courses have really been helpful here too. So I think you see a lot of pivoting, but also making a way in that particular academic space there as well.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. I also see some people maybe hesitating on doing the academic route, feeling like,
Hmm.
well,
Oh yeah,
is
finances is a big part of it too. Yes.
yeah, is there still this massive value to match the cost of education? And I'm just wondering how you see institutions keeping up with that
Yeah.
workforce.
I have seen on LinkedIn. I've even seen a lot of like alumni networks, even a lot of colleges and universities making some of these courses free. I've also seen a lot of them doing them at a discounted rate if people do want to come back and, become a double alum of that particular institution. But I also see this as an opportunity where people don't necessarily go to school, they may be doing webinars. So even on like particular, social media and career platforms, you can go now and take classes, and those opportunities are free. And as long as you have access to computer and Wi-Fi, people are even returning back to the library, just simple as renting books and learning how to code, how to use different software. So you see people really taking advantage of free resources. I even seen companies also putting more money towards professional development, because even during times like this, you also want to retain the talent that you have, because people become a prized commodity. And so this is an opportunity where I think I've seen companies leverage up their opportunities, professional development, and then also to retain the resources that they have in individuals.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing that too. People using all different types of methods, which is beautiful and which is partially part of your life's work. How do you give people all types of opportunities to access the goals that they have? So that's beautiful. Any perspective or guess as to what the next decade of STEM education could look like as we move beyond this moment of people, accessing all these different education types? How do you see things shifting and changing for institutions maybe in 10 years from now?
I wish I did have like a crystal ball. I could see the future. But what I've seen so far is I've seen a shift to really recruit at an even younger age. So in my work, I found that you have to have some type of STEM identity or STEM affiliation as early as second and third grade. So what
Wow.
you will see now is you'll see a lot of colleges and universities really investing more in these pipeline projects. So they're going out into the communities, they're leveraging faculty, staff, and maybe even current undergraduate or graduate students to run STEM based camps over the summers, or introduce after school programs where you're introducing STEM to students early on, because what you're doing, you're priming them for early career exploration and career opportunities at an earlier age. For me, I think I was introduced to that through 4-H. Oftentimes, if you can get the light bulb to click on earlier, people have an aptitude to continue towards those types of exploration activities. People, when they're engaged early on with tactile and auditory types of activities, they tend to trend towards a particular pathway or particular career trajectory because of that. And so I think you'll see a lot more outreach in communities from colleges and universities to recruit early on. Initially, the earliest time I think I heard about a college and career fair was maybe middle school, but now they're already in elementary schools doing
Wow.
career day at the kindergarten stage. And it's not just just your traditional, oh, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a teacher. They're bringing a neuroscientist, they're bringing data analysts, they're bringing engineers, because you can't be what you don't see and you can't be what you've never heard of, right? Or never imagined. Bringing in the astronauts. But they're also bringing in people that want to be welders, anesthesiologists, radiologists. So you're able to ascertain and be able to predict, even career models that may be at deficits, that may be high earning careers, but maybe students have never heard about these things at an earlier age. I think that's going to be part of it. I think even more community and engagement with the university. So you can do these continuing education classes. Being able to offer affordable education. You've already seen that trend start to happen at schools, not just Ivies, but across the gamut, where people are saying if you make below this particular partition, you can go to college for free. Because, a lot of times access is also tied to financial caveats. I think also you'll probably even see more collaborations between universities. So I've even seen, before I started to even leave Georgia, I saw a lot of collaborations between the 4-year institutions and the 2-year colleges, as
Mm.
well as at the technical school and technical colleges. So they had these articulation agreements where they're kind of building these pipelines. So if they go to here for 2 years to get their associates, then they're going to come here for get their bachelor's in 4 years of grad school. So I think you're going to see a lot more collaboration with colleges, and to build in that student body. I think you're going to see a lot more of this grow your own type of model, using the outreach activities to recruit more locally, meaning that you may have students not only just coming from all other 49 states, but you have people coming literally from in your own neighborhood and backyards, and utilizing state schools in that regard as well. Because I think sometimes what you'll see is that you have a lot of people that are out of state, but you have very few, or least amount of students, maybe in-state residents, right? So I think some of these schools that may be in more rural areas, looking for opportunities to engage with the rural population and the student population that's around them and surrounding them, to really help not only build up that community, but now you're also building up your state. You're building up your state
Yeah.
in terms of economics, literacy rates. You see really that incline when a lot of the universities get engaged and involved in local communities. So I think you'll see a myriad of different practices to continue to help these colleges and universities attract diverse talent from different schools. Fly-in programs are becoming really popular these days. You've seen a lot of online and digital advertisements using different programs to recruit scholars or recruit students. Especially STEM-based students is really going to be popular, I think, in the next couple of years. They've been doing it, but I think you'll see an uptick or a
Yeah.
revamp.
Super insightful. I know we're at the end. I do want to do a quick closing game with you. Do you have time for
Okay,
that? Okay,
sure.
this is just
Close
five
account. Okay.
questions. This is sort of Family Feud
Oh,
style
goodness.
quick rounds. And these are 5 questions that we ask. And this game is going to be called Pass or Persist. Because you have such an influence over so many students,
Uh-huh.
I want you to think of this as students coming to you and being like, Dr. Booker, I have an option to do this or do this. What do I do? And you can
Okay.
say, you should pass on that opportunity, like keep good for something else, or persist. Keep going.
Okay.
You'll make it through. 5 questions, quick responses. And if you want to give a reason why, like in a quick response, that'd be perfect. Are you ready? First question. A student failed organic chemistry twice, but they love the research lab. Pass or
Okay.
persist?
That student might have been me. Okay. Persist.
Why persist?
Don't walk away from STEM because you did poorly in a particular classroom. Because I'm not an organic chemist either, right? My pathway was through biology. So what I had to do was I had to, instead of majoring in chemistry, I got a minor in chemistry and I majored in biology. And I realized that I was better in biology than I was in chemistry. And I just got some academic assistance, to some tutoring, do some faculty support. And then I was able to persist through actually organic 1 and organic 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think doing well in the lab really helped my faculty member to see that I was persistent and that I was an academically capable student. I
Yeah.
was just having difficulty with the material at the time.
That's good advice. I actually dropped my bio lab when I didn't do well on my first step.
It's okay.
I'm out. Okay, question number 2. They didn't get the research role they applied for that summer, but they did get an opportunity to do research in their field at a school that pays $0 for the summer, but they may have to take a student loan to make that happen. Pass or persist?
I'm an optimistic person, so I'm going to say persist. Because now it's in your field. There's going to be a resume builder. You may have to work a part-time job. Maybe you have to do some online job, to make up that deficit in your finances. But I think it's worth that persistence to put that on your resume.
Yeah. Figure it out, get it done.
Figure it out, get it done.
Hopefully, if you can, yeah. Okay, third question. A student is passionate about a field that is being quickly automated by AI. Pass or persist?
I may say pass because maybe what you can do is make that a hobby, but you don't want to basically outwork yourself out of a job before you even get into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
Mhm.
point. And a lot of fields are being automated by AI right now.
They
It's
are, yeah.
hard. Like, if you're excited about something and then all of a sudden it's taking over that space, it's a lot of conversations around that. Next question. Someone in a PhD program has a PI who does not give them the mentorship they want, but the research is really interested into what they want to do. Should they stay in that program, persist, or pass and try to go somewhere else?
I think if they're an undergraduate, they should persist. If they're a graduate, I think that's different. That's a different caveat there. I will say that you can get mentorship even outside of your discipline and even outside of your field. So maybe they'll find that mentorship capacity in another faculty member or another staff member, but they persist through would be my suggestion.
Someone who never considered moving to rural New England gets a full ride to Dartmouth for their PhD in aerospace engineering or something like
Persist,
that.
persist, persist. Get
But
that
they
free
hate the
education.
cold. They're like, "It's so
You get a
cold."
coat, you get a scarf, you get a hat, you will adapt. Yes, Nelson Mandela said that the best way to liberate a person is through education, academic scholarship. So I think that if I could change it, I would have went to I had a scholarship to an upper state school and I saw the snow. I was discouraged as well from someone coming from the South. But what I realized now that I was able to adapt, right? You get a coat, you get a hat, you get a scarf, you get the snow boots, you make it cute, and you do what you need to do. And then once you graduate, if the snow is not for you, then you go to a warmer climate. It's only snowing during the winter term for the most part and some part of the spring term. So you think about it, you're only dealing with the snow maybe 3 to 4 months out of the year, and you may be back home, or you may be able to do your research in another particular tropical climate or another place out of state, out of the country. So just think about the opportunities that you can explore when you have those breaks. And that
Yeah,
way that will help reset your mind and recalibrate your body when you have to go through this snowy weather.
yeah. I tell people all the time, "Don't focus on the snow. Focus on the opportunity."
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your thoughts and sharing your brilliance. I think I've truly learned a lot around like where you're seeing education going. And just hearing about your background and some of the curiosities you had was beautiful. I want to be the type of parent that is doing Jeopardy with my kid on a Friday
Yeah.
night. So thank you so much, Dr. Booker, for coming and being a part of our podcast. And to listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and share it with a student or someone that cares a lot about hiring or academia and making that pipeline easier. And follow us on socials for clips and resources for more of these opportunities. Thank you, Dr. Booker.
You're welcome. Thank you.